What's up, everybody? We're back today to talk about a new camera from Canon, currently shooting on a Canon, because when we went to Cinegear, we got invited to the Canon press event for the launch of the C400. So we just wanted to give you a quick overview and kind of just give you our thoughts on the C400, coming from somebody who is a Canon shooter and shoots a lot. You know, we do a lot of corporate and doc stuff here in Seattle, so I have a great amount of hands-on experience with C500, C70s, etc. So just want to quick talk about it. So what is the C400? Well, it fits between the C500 and kind of everything else. It's new, but also feels like it fits in their lineup, but it's a 6K, full frame, stack sensor. They claim 16 stops to latitude, rolling shutter readouts probably somewhere in the 12 to 13 millisecond range, and as usual, just really great Canon skin tones. Now, a lot has changed. It is smaller, more compact. And before we even start talking about anything else, keep in mind, I'm gonna say this right now, $7,999. Crazy price for all the specs that I'm about to list. Removable hand grip, great touchscreen monitor, updated version of Canon's new AF, which definitely does feel snappier and better. All the connectors now are USB-C. The top bracket is much better thought out and way easier to use. 4 inputs for video signal. You've got 2 SDIs, a monitor signal, and an HDMI, all that are totally programmable to be their own outputs, which is fantastic. If you need 4K monitoring out, you have it. Can't say that about the Burano unless you're an HDMI, but you do get a 12G SDI output on one of the SDI outputs, which is fantastic. It's RF mount now. I personally really like that. If you do like RF lenses, you get crazy good autofocus and everything else, but now you can do adapters and do some other really fun stuff, say because it has internal ND. So if you want to run an RF to PL with a drop-in filter, now you can do kind of rear filtration and keep your rig real light and not have to run a matte box if you want to do something like filtration. So that's honestly, in my opinion, really cool. Some people might not like that, but whatever. They've moved to mini XLRs instead of full size, and they moved the placement of where the inputs or the controls are to the operator side, so it's a little bit easier on the fly to kind of get to some of your controls, which is a really nice upgrade. They've made BNC and Genlock all included in here now instead of needing an expansion module, which is really great with the DIN connectors, which just kind of looks like the mini SDI, which is a really nice small form factor, and I think that'll be really popular to get all of that just on the back of one rig, so that's really nice. New battery system, you still use the old batteries, but the new one provide more power throughput to the camera, so if you do want to run a zoom lens with a servo, you can actually power that right through the camera now, so also very, very cool. Camera doesn't weigh a whole lot, still has the electronic image stabilization, and they've lost the dual CFB slot. Now it's just one CFB and a CFA, but they have fixed a lot of their kind of metadata tracking problems. So in my opinion, this is a much more useful version and iteration of a dual card slot there. You can shoot all the flavors of RAW that Canon is offering in their current C500 Mark II with the newest upgrade. And just across the board, a really nice looking camera form factor wise. So yeah, very impressed, and basically a long list of positives, especially for the price. Now, I have 2 things about this camera that I'm not overly excited about. I'm gonna bring those up right now. It's probably too late for Canon to see this, but if they do, this is maybe my biggest concern and maybe the Achilles heel of this platform if you're used to using the hand grip. Now, they've moved the hand grip to a USB-C cable, and unlike the monitor, has a removable on both ends cable. This one is still fixed to the handle as one piece, so it doesn't remove from this side and plugs into the camera. Now, the way this L-shaped USB goes into the camera, on the C500 Mark II, I've had so many people take this grip off and it accidentally drops and falls, but the way it's in there, it's kind of okay. The cable's robust. On this, the downside of the cable is the actual part that goes into the camera. Since it's at a 90, if someone were to remove it and even just yank it a little bit, that USB could bend, or if they dropped it, it could bend the other way. And because it's not removable and not replaceable, that might mean a full hand grip replacement or have to send in for service. And this, to me, when I was playing with the camera, was one thing that made me just a little bit nervous after I've had a lot of experience with hand grip and watching people on the C500. So I hope that's something that there's a solution for either a cage manufacturer or Canon directly, but that worries me slightly. Honestly, everything else about the camera is killer. And maybe the only thing that I'm a little disappointed by Canon's marketing is while they do say that there's a lot of dynamic range, I feel like they are using a lot of their semi-contrasty LUTs when they're showing the footage. And also, they're trying to hype a new lens. And their new coatings are very, very contrasty. And I would just love to see some footage shot on maybe a vintage lens that has a little bit less contrast to really see how much I'm getting out of that center if I can, lift the blacks and have a little bit of bloom happening in the highlights, because you really don't get to examine that and see that at the launch footage. Canon sounds like they're gonna send us a camera here pretty soon, which we'll be able to test a ton of stuff out with. But those are my real only two things that I'm kind of concerned about. Everything else, super dialed. We immediately put an order in for 2 at the shop. I can't wait. If you're somebody who is talking about, oh, this is a Komodo X killer, this is a Burano killer, it might be, I don't know. We have Buranos here. I think this offers more than the Burano, but if you're in the Sony ecosystem, this really isn't gonna affect you anyway. But it is a very feature-rich and powerful camera for the price. You can get 3 of them for the price of 1 Burano. For a lot of people, that might be enough to make you switch systems. If you're just getting into a system, that's a pretty cool thing as well. If you wanted something small to cut with this, I feel like the R5C is still gonna be a great companion to this, or a C70. They still look enough alike, function enough alike, where it hasn't made any of their other cameras not function well with this, and I really appreciate Canon's thought when putting this out in, relation to what else is on the market. Now, when we're talking about a Komodo X, look, if you want Super 35, the Komodo X is there. They're just different formats, and definitely the C70 gives you a lot more, but if you want a higher end production, a higher end codec, sure, go with the Raptor. It definitely has workflow capabilities that the Canon doesn't, and they both have their own strengths and weaknesses, and it's kind of hard to compare them because really the only similarities they have is a similar price point. You can do similar things with both, but you're gonna need to make sacrifices on both systems to try to get to the middle ground to try to do the same work. So if you're thinking about either of these cameras, they're both great. You just need to break down the work you're doing to see, if a C400 or a Komodo X is great for you, but I don't think they're gonna cripple each other. The only place I do feel like there might be some trouble is that Burano. This is a really great camera as a comparison to the Burano, and that's basically all we have to say on the C400. It was really great to go to the event. It was great to meet everybody. It was super fun to see it at Cinegear and see it under a variety of different lighting scenarios, but we can't wait to get it in here and shoot some footage in a multitude of formats. So with that is our video on the Canon C400. We're excited to get one in here to demo it and try a bunch of stuff. And what do you think? What do you want to see in some tests? Leave that in the comments and we'll try to incorporate that when we do get one in here to shoot as much as we can for a more rich overview of the system once we get it in. So thank you for watching, appreciate your time. Remember, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.